And next speaker here is then Markus Lundgren from the Swedish Anglers Association. You're also up here already on stage.
I saw that, yeah, I was surprised.
You know how he has been looking like, at least. But you saw the resemblances, I hope, hopefully then also. So please, you're going to talk about the need for a broader ecosystem view in Baltic fisheries management, and also, angling, the ecosystem-based fishing industry you're going to talk about. And also how the recreational fisheries and the professional fisheries are related to each other then also in a bit. So please, Markus.
Thank you. Yes, I was quite surprised. I knew Gustav had something up there. He said, "You're on a picture." Really? Yeah, that was an old picture before the beard and when I still had the time to do some angling. Well, I still do. I was asked to talk a little about Sportfiskarna, the Swedish Anglers Association, and the good trend that we see in angling and in the interest in Sweden for angling. And of course, I'm going to talk a little about the work that we do on the Baltic Sea coast, because we do work a lot with the Baltic Sea. It's one of our main focus. So shortly, I have a lot of pictures, but they're mostly on fish, so you'll just sit back and enjoy, and I'll talk shortly about it and swift it through. We're growing. We're a non-profit organization, and we're almost, we're around 45 employees, and we're a lot of biologists, 25 biologists. And during July, August, when we have a lot to do, a lot of field work, we're more than 80 people on the payroll, actually. We got our headquarters here in Stockholm. We have around 58,000 members. That includes individual members and also members of fishing clubs that are members of Sportfiskarna. And we have this main goal: good fishing in clean waters with healthy fish populations. So angling is a huge interest in Sweden. Around 2 million Swedes fish in some way every year. This is the latest figures they're 3 years old, from SCB, Statistics Sweden. And the new data is coming out in 2 days, the 8th of March. So we're really looking forward to that. It says that, well, basically that a lot of people do fish recreationally, and the annual turnover, the value is huge, almost 6 billion kronor. And it's very important for many people, and also the ones engaged in this also put down a lot of time and effort to do voluntary work, nature conservation work, helping out with water or restoring rivers, for example. Okay, so our crew is growing. It's quite young. This is from the Sport Fishing Fair a few years ago. This is just an old slide, just to show you the blue line there is how many people are employed, and the red one is the annual turnover. So you can see that we've grown a lot the last 15 years, and as I said, we're 45 people right now. But just remember that, 15 years ago we had this situation. In 2002 we were almost bankrupt when our former Secretary General, Stefan Nyström, took over the ship and turned it into something really good. And I told you that we're growing. We've been growing for 15 years, the annual turnover, the employees numbers, and the member numbers. It's all been growing straight for 15 years in a row. So that's nothing but a really good trend. I'm not going to bore you with everything we do, but it's interesting to see that, considering the conservation and the policy work, that's where we do most of the time. I told you we're 45 people and around 25 biologists. So we do a lot of work on that area. We also work a lot with kids, to get the kids out fishing or go out in the nature. And we've got some money from the government, and that makes it able for us to take even more kids out fishing. We have a few projects. I'm not going to translate klassdraget, but I'll tell you what we do. We have a lot of, for example, in spring break, sportlov, höstlov, we have a lot of camps or different days when the kids can come out and try fishing. And in 2016, we took out 30,000 kids with an even higher goal for this year. And this is really interesting. On school time, we take out 14,500 kids. That was last year. And according to my colleagues, we are the best non-profit organization in Sweden taking out kids on school time. I think that's really impressive. This is Skolbäcken. We take kids out. They can look at the animals, and they can help out putting some, for example, some rocks back to rivers that have been cleaned or straightened by us. This is the minister, as you can see. She joined us this fall in Malmö, her region, so she helped out, and it's a good project. So especially taking out kids during school time, that's very important. And I told you about this, klassdraget. They can go out fishing, and it's strongly connected to a club that are members of ours. They take the school class out. Shortly about our international work. We work, well, we've had a lot to do with the Baltic cod the last year because, as you know, it's also been a regulation on recreational fisheries. Baltic salmon, as Claes also works a lot with. We work full-time with that. Glenn, my colleague there in the middle, he's at our Luleå office, and he works close, and I know he meets Claes occasionally. The Water Framework Directive, Vattendirektivet. Christina here on the left, she works full-time with this. Basically, it's about sustainability within the hydropower industry, which is a tough road to go. We have this is just a few examples. We have a cormorant scarv, a position paper coming out later this year, together with Finland, Norway, and Denmark, the anglers there. And we meet members of the parliament, and we meet the commission. This picture is from last year. I think a few of you recognize Linnea Engström. She's vice chair of the Committee on Fisheries, which is a very important role that Isabella Lövin had before her. So we did some, well, we could call it lobby work. It was a good meeting. We also have a European organization, European Anglers Alliance. We actually have 3 million members, anglers, within 14 organizations in 13 countries in Europe. We have a Brussels office where we go occasionally. It gives us a good platform for the lobby work, meeting the commission, meeting the MEPs in the parliament. And we're active in the Baltic Sea Advisory Council, and we're active observers of HELCOM also. This is, well, they drag me along because I'm by far the youngest in the EAA community. It's a bit sad, but I don't know how many recognizes the commissioner, Mr. Carmelo Vella here. He's the commissioner for Maritime Affairs and Fisheries in the European Union. We met him last year, which is really, really a big thing. We talked about the big value of angling, the socioeconomic aspects of it. I must also mention the Fisheries Secretariat. We have our director, Jan, here, and we also have the headquarters here in Stockholm, and we have a big focus on the Baltic region. We work a lot with sustainable fisheries, of course, and the common fisheries policy and everything what that means. We do a lot of capacity building. A very important role, as I see, is NGO coordination in the Baltic region. And until very recently, we were also vice chair of the Baltic Sea Advisory Council. And the board is made up by WWF, the Swedish Society for Nature Conservation, and Sportfiskarna. So now Sportfiskarna is chair of the board for 2 years. Just shortly about our project, it's always nice to be able to curse when I'm up here. Ge fan i våra vatten. It's a nature conservation project which started with a couple of rock musicians, and basically the skull here represents exploitation interests. It might be hydropower or a politician who doesn't do his or her job. And we have a lot of t-shirts and everything, and it sells pretty good, and everything we collect money-wise is collected to a fund, and we use this money to restore waters. And there's actually something for everyone, almost. It's quite popular. Okay, so I mentioned the Water Framework Directive, which is really important. This is up north in Hartioki. This is spawning sea trout. So we work a lot with hydropower and the problems around that. And many people think that it's just salmon, trout, and eel that gets hurt, but it's not.
Blacked out now.
Yeah, let's see if it works. I have a movie.
Oh, okay.
This is on Gotland. My colleague Lasse filmed this. This is just a typical dam. This is April, and if you film under the water, you have lots of perch this day trying to come up to spawn in the small lake upstream, but it's impossible for them to get up there. So my main message is just that it's a lot of species that need to be able to pass the dams. This is another picture that is taken by one of my colleagues. Just downstream a dam, pikes trying to get up to their spawning habitats. Okay, you know all about the problems along the Swedish Baltic coast, and shortly about the pikes that we work with. They have declined since the 90s, and we have sea spawners. They spawn on the coast, but we also have freshwater spawners, which is a major part of the stock. Freshwater is very important for them, and there's a lot of problems. We have the dams, we have the straightened water courses, and other obstacles. So we started the project, Rovfiskprojektet, gäddfabriker or pike factories, as many of you might have heard of. Basically, we get the money from Baltic Sea 2020, for example, and other people and organizations. And it's all about restoring the wetlands that we have destroyed. In the south of Sweden, we've destroyed lots of wetlands, lowering the water levels, and they've just disappeared, a lot of these important habitats. So we restore them, we do the work to get the water back in these areas. And it's really important to work together with the landowners. And basically, to make it short, I haven't got much time left. It makes perfect spawning habitats for pikes and a few other species, but especially pikes. You should go to YouTube and check a look at Gäddfabriken. It's a 4-minute, very pedagogic movie about this. So the fish, the pike, they go up in April and they spawn. These are all pictures from our wetlands. And pretty soon, the pike, they're born after just around after 3 weeks. And they grow really fast. You can see here they're really fat. They're really fat. It's perfect habitats for them. And also they're predators from birth, basically. So if you look at this, you might think that this is a 1-year-old, a 2-year-old, and a 3-year-old. But this is actually pikes that are maybe 1 day old and 1 week old and 3 weeks old. So it's quite important if you're a pike to be born early. You can see that. These are just a few pictures of the habitat. This is our quality manager, Bella. She makes sure that, you know, the water is wet and... So this is how it looks. It also includes removing obstacles. And yeah, we've done a lot of restoring. 350 hectares are opened up in total. Wetlands is about 100 hectares. And we have a few reports that you can ask me about later. And I'm just finishing off really quick with 2 good examples that we see from the Baltic Sea. It's not only problems. This is my organization. Once a year we go fishing and have a 2-day meeting because, you know, we're everywhere from Gotland to Malmö to Luleå. So we go to the Öresund and we charter a boat and we go out fishing in the Öresund. And we have these unique strong stocks that Gustav talked about. We have the trawling ban there since 1932. And we have charter boats that actually live pretty good on these strong, unique stocks. It's not only cod. It's a lot about plaice, for example. I go there fishing. I live on the Swedish west coast, but I go there fishing for plaice. And the last 2 slides. Claes knows all about this, that Sweden and Finland basically produce all the Baltic salmon. And when they're not in their first maybe 2 years in the rivers, they are down in the south of the Baltic feeding. And what we've done is that we finally have set the TACs, the quotas, in more accordance to the scientific advice, which has given us more salmon back. And you can see that the Torne up there in the north basically produce almost half of it. And together with Kalix and a few more, it's a lot of salmon. And this has opened up a fantastic opportunity for these rural areas. It brings income for Mörrumsån in the south, but especially up here. The last 3-4 years, Claes, we've seen a lot of salmon coming back to many of these rivers. And just finishing off with the value of the fishing in Torne River. The sport fishing, the turnover was over 6 million euros last year. This is incredible. This is a big amount. So this is a great resource that we have. And it's thanks to fishing according to the scientific advice. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. One short question, and I will take the opportunity then also. What is the Swedish Anglers Association's opinion about that we are now regulating the bag limit for cod in the Öresund Strait?
Oh, I have another 15 minutes?
No. Just yes or no, or very short.
Yeah, I can give it to you.
Say something about that.
I have a good answer for it. Down here, we know in the south of the Baltic, we know it's been really tough on the cod stocks. And we've said for many years we need to regulate it. We have nothing at all against stopping the fishing in the south. But it's very unfortunate that Öresund happened to be in the same package as subdivision 22 and 24. So Öresund subdivision 23 should be managed separately. That's what we think, because we have good stocks there.
Okay. Thank you very much for the short answer then, Markus. And thank you very much again. Here's a small gift.
Thank you.
Mm.